All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down this fascinating white paper from Rapax. It's called The Last Engineer Who Knew. And believe me, it digs into a huge, kind of scary crisis that's unfolding in telecom right now. And more importantly, what we can actually do about it.
And it all kicks off with this one, simple and honestly pretty chilling sentence. You know who they're talking about. Every single operator, every team has that person, the one who just knows things, the one you call when nothing makes sense. But what happens when they walk out the door for good? That is the question at the heart of all this.
So the whole thing starts with a personal story from the author's own career building something called a SONET ring. Now, don't worry about the nitty-gritty tech details. The point is, this is old school, legacy stuff. But here's the kicker. These old networks, they didn't just disappear. Oh no, they're still humming along, carrying critical traffic, and a lot of the time, there's only one person left who remembers why it was configured in that one weird specific way.
So, losing that one engineer, well, it's not just a one-off problem. The paper frames this as a full-blown three-vector crisis. It's like three different forces all hitting at the exact same time, draining all that essential knowledge right out of the industry.
First up, you've got the big one, the retirement wave. The generation that literally built these networks, they're leaving. We're talking over 10,000 people hitting retirement age every single day in major economies, and they are taking decades of unwritten, in-their-head knowledge right out the door with them.
Okay, so at the very same time, what are companies doing? They're downsizing. And here's the absolutely brutal logic of it. Your most expensive employees are usually your most experienced ones. So when it's time to cut costs, who's first on the list? The very people who know the most. You can hire a junior engineer to handle tickets, sure, but you can't just download 30 years of context into their brain. And the third vector is what the paper calls expert flight. Look, the skills we need today, we're talking cloud, automation, AI, they're in red-hot demand everywhere. Teleco is no longer just competing against other telcos. You're competing with Google, with Wall Street, with everyone. And as you can see, almost 70% of organizations are already finding it hard to fill these roles. The talent pool is shrinking while the competition is exploding.
Now, this is the part that really gets you. These three forces, they don't just add up, they multiply. It's a chain reaction. Retirements open up a knowledge gap. Downsizing gets rid of the very people who could fill it, and expert flight snatches away the rising stars who are next in line. It's a recipe for a downward spiral.
So, what does this brain drain actually mean in the real world? This isn't just some HR problem, not at all. It is a direct threat to operations and to the bottom line. It kicks off with what the paper calls a financial spiral.
Now this slide, I find this fascinating. When there's a big outage, it is so easy to point the finger and say human error. But look at this data. A whopping 85% of major outages aren't really because someone pushed the wrong button. They happen because the procedure was flawed or out of date, or, and this happens all the time, it just didn't exist. It's not a people problem, it's a knowledge problem.
And that knowledge problem comes with a massive price tag. I mean, just look at this number. For a lot of big companies, we're talking over $300,000 for a single hour of downtime. These numbers are just staggering. Every minute your team spends hunting for a document that isn't there is literally money pouring out of the business.
And this just perfectly illustrates the vicious cycle it creates. They call it the firefighting trap. Your experts leave, right? So the team that's left gets sucked into constantly putting out fires on old gear they don't fully get. All that reactive work means those important modernization projects, they get shelved. So the old stuff gets even older, it breaks more often, which means more firefighting, and the cycle just spins faster and faster.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's huge, it's scary, and it's getting worse. But here's where the story pivots. The paper argues that we are at this really unique moment in time, where a new kind of technology is giving us a real way out of this mess. And it's not just another tool, it's a fundamental shift in what's possible.
And I can practically hear you thinking this, right? Because we've all seen it. The graveyards of failed projects, the dusty, abandoned wikis, the SharePoint sites that nobody's touched in 5 years. Why on earth should we believe this time is going to be any different?
Well, the difference is in the technology itself. The old tools, they depended on you knowing the exact right keyword to search for, in a library that had to be perfectly organized. And let's be honest, at 3 a.m. during a major outage, that whole system just falls apart. The new AI, things like large language models with a technique called RAG, it's different. It understands your intent. You can just describe your problem in plain English, and it figures out what you mean.
Then it puts together an answer from all your messy, unstructured documents. So what is this RAG thing? Think of it like this. You have a super smart AI, but instead of letting it search the whole internet, you give it your company's private library, all your runbooks, your vendor manuals, your internal procedures. So when it answers a question, it's not guessing. It's retrieving the right facts from your data and using them to generate a precise, accurate answer that's actually relevant to your network. And listen, this isn't some science fiction pie-in-the-sky idea. The big analyst firms are already all over it. Gartner's predicting that in just a few years, 70% of companies will be using this kind of AI in their IT ops. This is happening, and it is happening fast. The gap between the companies that get on board and the ones that don't is going to be massive.
So if this is where we're all headed, how do you actually get there? What's step one? Well, the paper lays out a really practical, step-by-step roadmap, and the whole point is to start delivering value right away, not to get bogged down in some giant multi-year project.
It starts simple. Just feed the system all the documentation you already have. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. Instantly, it becomes searchable. From there, the system actually helps you figure out where your biggest knowledge gaps are. And here's the crucial part. It plugs right into your daily workflow, so it captures new knowledge as it's created. It becomes a living system that literally gets smarter with every ticket and every outage.
Now this whole approach, this whole philosophy, is the engine behind the Rapax platform. Their AI agent, which is called Wade, is built to do exactly this stuff. But what's really key here is the core idea. Your engineers shouldn't have to stop what they're doing and go hunt for information. The right knowledge should flow to them, right in the middle of their workflow at the exact moment they need it most.
And that brings us all the way back to the final, critical question that the paper leaves you with. This isn't some abstract business problem. Think about your own team, your own organization, right now. Who is that person? Who is your last engineer who really truly knows how that critical piece of your infrastructure actually works? And what's your plan for the day they leave?